Longtime Charleston County School Board member Michael Miller is doing his hat in the ring for Charleston County Register of Deeds. I speak exclusively with Michael for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Michael Miller.
What?
It's about you. That's what's going on in Registered Deeds.
Yeah, man.
I want to take it back to the Charleston Chronicle news article that came out March 21st. And the headline reads, Miller announces bid to run for the Charleston County Register of Deeds office. Tell me why, Michael Miller, why Register of Deeds?
A long story, but I'm going to try to shorten it for you. My bid to run for the Charleston County School District, for me, was really an unselfish act on my part. I recognize the importance of education, not just for my children, but for all children of Charleston County, also to be an advocate for children and parents, teachers alike. The Register of Deeds office is a little selfish, I might say. There are several neighborhoods in the area, in the county, that I found out may be prone to eminent domain. One of those neighborhoods are very near and dear to me. There's a gentleman named Sam Williams. Mr. Williams is from Alabama, passed away in 1992, married a woman named Martha Williams from Yamasee, South Carolina. When they moved to Charleston, they lived in Liberty Hill area of North Charleston. They lived there for quite some time, and Mr. Williams, who had a sixth grade education, had an opportunity to buy some property in the Liberty Hill Highland Terrace community. There he built a house, and he was not a contractor, wasn't a carpenter, but he built a house with his hand and helped with some friends. He raised 7 children, a niece and a nephew in that house. Upon his death, he wanted to have his children live in that house as part of his legacy, something he believed in his children. His youngest son currently lives in a home with his family. But that family and that area is now subject to potential eminent domain because of a potential widening of the 526 I-26 corridor.
Right.
This issue came about 2-3 years ago as well, under a different set of circumstances. That neighborhood is the neighborhood that my mother grew up in. That man, Sam Williams, was my grandfather. I believe that people buy property to leave a legacy for their family, so that their children and their children's children will have the opportunity of living on that property and living in that property or on that land. And in doing so, you're able to create wealth for yourself, not just for yourself, but for your family. There are hundreds of families and hundreds of people who live in that area and areas like it around town, where they may be subject to either gentrification, eminent domain, or heirs property issues. As you know, while I've been on the school board, I've been a strong advocate for children and will continue to be. I advocated for children before I became a board member, but doing my school supply giveaways and mentoring alike. I realized that education was not my only passion. Being able to advocate for homeowners is also one of my passions. And so I want to continue that advocacy in a different way, continue that advocacy and work, and then represent, if the residents would allow me to, represent them as a Register of Deeds.
And you talk about education. I know that you are a proud Howard University student.
I am, and that is, Howard is my school. I played soccer at Howard. And,
really?
I was a transfer student. I went to Benedict College my freshman year,
right.
And then transferred to Howard.
Yeah. Any chance back then that you had a passion for real estate and helping people?
No, I think when I look back over my life, I've realized that we're not the sum of a snippet in our life. We're the sum of all of our lives.
Yeah.
And I've grown a lot over the years of my young and freshman years in college and high school, and then being a young adult and getting into the barbering profession.
Right.
And then 17 years ago, only started my own business, Michael and Company. So I've grown as a person in a lot of ways that I would never have thought. But now I'm happy where I am. I'm glad that I've been able to identify a sense of purpose and a mission in my own life, not just with my family, with my wife and my 2 children, but also being an advocate for others. whether it be on the school board, whether it be through my community activism with providing free school supplies to children throughout the county. But now, also in the capacity of being a registered of deeds. And I'm going to tell you, Quintin, what opened my eyes even a little more to the registered of deeds position is my appointment on the West Ashley Revitalization Commission,
Right.
where I was appointed by Mayor Tecklenburg, and we were looking at the growth and expansion of west of the Ashley. And in that conversation, we started talking about the Maryville-Ashleyville area.
Right.
And how there was an area of land where a gentleman who owned the property, and he sold his property, and in doing so, there were some residents or some tenants on his property who owned traders. And as a result of him selling his property, those tenants had to then leave and find a new location. That is part of the way we live. You own a property, you have the right to sell it. But it really opened my eyes even more so to the potential displacement of the folks who live in the Maryville-Ashleyville community. Gentrification is real, growth is real, but oftentimes it doesn't happen in a very equitable way. And I believe that this office could be used to be an advocate for homeowners and property owners in Charleston County.
How did we get here with gentrification in your mind?
The one word I would have to say is growth. Growth can be good and bad. It depends on what side of the line you're on. 40 plus years ago, Charleston was basically an obscure city. Many people didn't know about it unless they happened to visit. But 40 years later, it's one of the best cities in the world. It's in the magazine for most visited,
Right.
Destination weddings,
Right.
the whole 9 yards, you name it. But in that growth, you could see a displacement of families and residents whose income don't necessarily grow with the city at large.
Okay.
And I think that's where you see gentrification, not just here in Charleston, but in all of your major cities you see.
Right, absolutely. You talk about growth. Let's stay with the Charleston County Register of Deeds. All the candidates that I've spoken to for Quintin's close-ups are basically talking to me about electronic documents, the move of the office. You're talking about all sorts of things, plates. What is the future of that office in your mind?
Well, I think the future of the office really lies in who becomes the register
Okay.
and what their vision of the office will or will not be. I think it's quite obvious that the office needs to be more modernized, electronics, things of that nature.
Sure.
But any candidate, and all of the candidates are going to say that because we all know that to be a true statement. I may be a little different because I find that office as being an advocate. I don't think it's been used in that way, probably since Charleston County started recording land acquisitions in the 1700s. But I think it could be that. I think it depends on who becomes the register, and I think that will determine the direction in which that office will go.
And what should the direction be like right now?
If you're asking me, I believe that direction ought to be one that speaks to the people. It is an elected office, and in most cities, it is not. In Charleston County, it also requires you to determine what party you are affiliated with, which is quite interesting because this office does not set policy. The office records information. Make sure that that information is documented properly in a timely manner so that state, federal, and local people can access that information. So that's where it has to go and continue to go until the laws change. But in the meantime, it needs to be more efficient. Currently, the office does not allow for cash or check transactions. We are in a modern era. The fact that you can't go in that office and use a credit card or a debit card is beyond me. So that's one of the things I think we need to be looking at. When you want to modernize it, when you want to take it from microfiche to scanning everything and making sure it's electronic, we can retrieve it pretty quickly. That's another thing I think that ought to be moving toward. And if given the opportunity to be a registered deeds, I will continue that.
And I was talking with Dan Gregory. I know he wants to basically, if he's elected, get a committee of people together to move the office forward. What type of people would you bring on your committee if you were elected? People
have different experiences. I'm not sure if I bring on a committee to do that. I think maybe a simple survey of those who use the office on a regular basis to get their feedback. Obviously having deliberate and purposeful conversation with the employees of the office, understanding their concerns, things that we can do to make the office more efficient, more customer friendly, because the office does provide a service to the public, so being customer friendly would also be a point that you would do. Again, so I don't know if I would bring a group of people in to help determine the visibility and or the purpose of the office. I think the capable people who work in that office are more than able of providing some positive and negative feedback to how the office is being run and things we can do to make it better and more efficient.
And obviously, you know, when you go around town and you talk to these people about the Charleston County Register of Deeds office, what are they telling you when you think in your mind about it?
Most people have never heard of it. 99% of the people who I spoke to have never heard of the Register of Deeds office. They've never heard of the RMC. They have no idea what the position is or what it does. So I find myself oftentimes educating people as to what the office is, what it does, and what's functionality. Then once you do that, then people say, oh, that's a pretty important position. And I would say, yes, it is. But most people have been registered voters and voting in Charleston County for multiple years and have never heard of the office.
What is one word you would describe for real estate?
One word to describe real estate in Charleston County?
Yes, sir.
Expensive.
Michael Miller, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Anytime, Quintin.
Thank you greatly.